What's up, everyone? Welcome to our Thursday night pregame show for Week 3. I'm Tera Roberts, and I'm here with Adam Ronis, and we are previewing tonight's game between the Carolina Panthers and the Houston Texans. We are running through hot topics and players of the week, and we are talking to you and taking your questions from the Fantasy Alarm and the DFS Alarm Discord. First question, Adam, how are you doing?
Doing well. Obviously, Thursday night football, always good to have it. Unfortunately, not the most appealing matchup on paper. Hopefully, it exceeds expectations, but Panthers have gotten off to a good start here with Sam Darnold taking over at quarterback. They're off to a 2-0 start. And the Texans, we know they're kind of a disaster right now, even though they did get that Week 1 win against Jacksonville. They were competitive with Cleveland for a little bit last week, but that was with Tyrod Taylor at quarterback and Davis Mills will get the start tonight with Taylor injured. So we just hope that we get some fantasy production and maybe place a couple wagers to make it exciting, but definitely on paper, not the most appealing game tonight.
That's perfect. You answered my second question. Are we pumped about the game? And of course, we're pumped about football, but it is. I don't think this was the game that the NFL was expecting when this was scheduled. So yeah. But we're going with it. And while we are previewing tonight's game, if you guys have any questions, jump into the Fantasy Alarm or DFS Alarm Discord and submit your questions in there, and we will be answering them in the chat live. But before we kick off the show, Fantasy Alarm has teamed up with Yahoo Daily Fantasy this season to offer a whole new DFS experience. And for a limited amount of time, get a free $25 contest entry credit after your first deposit using promo code ALARM. And if that's not enough, how about we throw in our NFL DFS playbook for free? That's right. Get our award-winning NFL Playbook Pro package for free when you sign up and make a deposit with Yahoo Daily Fantasy. Just go to fantasyalarm.com/Yahoo. Use the promo code ALARM when you sign up and make a deposit, and then go to dfsalarm.com, wait for the pop-up, and the NFL DFS Playbook Pro is all yours. Now, let's dive into hot topics around the league. I'm going to start us off with something that I think is maybe going to become a weekly segment for us. What's going on in San Francisco? It seems like there's something every single week. Obviously, we've got the running back situation. We've got the injuries. We've got unknowns in terms of who will actually be the RB1, who will be playing. Is there, a crazy practice squad signing that's going to happen? Will Chris Thompson make it off practice squad before Le'Veon Bell does for Baltimore? Lots of questions. What are we looking at with the running back situation here?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's clarity right now here on a Thursday. We need to see if Elijah Mitchell is going to play. He got the bulk of the touches last week. I know it was a little disappointing because he had the touchdown call back. He was short of the goal line, then got bagged up with the shoulder. And obviously, Trey Sermon got a carry and was hit hard, fumbled, and had the concussion. He was limited in practice this week, so it sounds like he's going to play. But yeah, I mean, I think we need to kind of wait. I would think if Mitchell goes, he'll get the bulk of the touches. I do think you'll probably see Sermon involved this week. We know that Jermichael Hasty is going to be out with this ankle sprain, so I think you kind of just have to wait it out. But they did show a commitment to Mitchell last week, and I think you probably will see Sermon involved if healthy. So I think it will be those two guys if they're healthy and ready to go.
And, it sounds like Mitchell is going to play, but in the crazy event that he doesn't, are we confident starting Trey Sermon?
Confident, no, but you might not have better options. The other problem with this game is Sunday night. They're playing Green Bay in the Sunday night game. So I don't know if we're going to have clarity. Again, and this is why you have to wait. Like, this is a very tricky week when it comes to injuries. I know everyone wants their questions answered now, but there's just so many situations that we just don't know. And that's why you just kind of have to wait till Sunday morning when the inactives come out to make these decisions. What you do now is you have a plan in place in case these players don't go. And we're starting to get some news on some players where it looks like they might not go. Others were still just not clear. And there's always going to be some surprises. We've been pretty fortunate. I think last week was pretty clear cut, but I think this is going to be a tricky week where we might find some players surprised to be inactive on Sunday. So That's why you have to really wait. Obviously, if you have players in tonight's game, and I can't think you have many on the Houston side. I mean, it's pretty much Brandon Cooks, right?
Yeah.
I know there might be people desperate in looking at the running back situation for the Texans, but I don't think you feel confident in any of them. So, but this is going to be, it feels like it's going to be a tricky week because there are a multitude of injuries where we're probably not going to get clarity until Sunday morning.
Yeah, and most of our hot topics that we're going to go through are injuries, and so we'll go to the next one, which is another injury situation. Unfortunately, Tua is out, Jacoby Brissett is in, and I don't think that we feel like we're going to roll out Jacoby Brissett in any way, shape, or form. I don't know. Do you feel even a DFS playing for him, or are you just avoiding as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, maybe if you're desperate in a super flex league, I did pick him up in 2. I don't plan to start him though. I have better quarterbacks, but I had Tua in 1 and I got him cheap. I was surprised. I just threw in a bid and said, all right, if I get him cheap, I'll take him. And I did. But I'm probably not going to use him. Although what's to me is strange is this line has not moved, which either is disrespectful to Tua. They don't think he's worth it. But it's hovered around 4.5, which to me is kind of strange.
Yeah.
Which has me leaning Miami, taking the points. That maybe they'll be competitive in this game. I know the Raiders are 2-0 and off to a good start, but yeah, it's tricky with Miami, and especially now that it looks like Will Fuller will be back this week as well. So, yeah, you don't feel great about starting anyone from that team this week.
Yeah. And I know Jacoby Brissett didn't look great last week. He does have more time to prepare and kind of go in it with an actual game plan. It's tough because with him, it's not like he's a guy that, it's a different situation than like a Taylor Heineke coming in who's got, he's going to throw it. He's going to sling it. We've got Jacoby Brissett, who's a little more conservative. He's never really been that guy. So in terms of the pass catchers, we've got that, we truly don't even know the pecking order when it comes to those 3 wide receivers, or even how much Gesicki will be involved in with now Fuller coming in, lots of targets to go around. You've got Gaskin catching balls as well. Are you touching any of the wide receivers?
No. I mean, I don't have any on my teams, and I have them all ranked outside the top 35. So, there are going to be some situations where you might have to use a Devonta Parker. Maybe you take a shot with a Will Fuller. Because there are some injuries this week at the receiver position. So you might be forced to start those guys. Again, this is a week where I feel like there are going to be people that you really don't want to start, but you're going to have to because of some of these injuries. I'm already feeling it looking at some of my lineups, and it's not good, but that's part of the NFL landscape. Injuries are going to happen, and you just have to hope that you have enough depth to get by.
Yeah. I've got Waddle. I'm very confident that I'm not going that direction because of the unknown, and Fuller as well. And I'm just gonna, if it was Tua, I was willing to take that chance and say, okay, I'm gonna trust that he's gonna get in there and go at it right away. But with this situation, I'm out, unfortunately. And then moving on to the next quarterback situation, unfortunately, we've got Indy, and we've got a kind of interesting situation with the backup quarterbacks going there. I think a lot of us assumed it would be Jacob Brissett, and we've got Brett Hundley that's coming in there and taking a lot of first-team snaps, possibly a kind of combination of them. We got a lot of combinations going on in the football league now, but yeah, I don't think we feel confident in either one of these guys in the event that they're playing. But how do we feel about the receivers in this situation?
Yeah, I mean, there's not many that we're using. I mean, Michael Pittman's coming off a really good game last week, and it is the Tennessee secondary, and they are brutal. I mean, there were guys running wide open for Seattle last week. So I think I might take a shot with Pittman. Again, I'm not going to rank him really high, but, if he can get wide open, it's not going to take much, even though Hundley's not that good, to hit him. We did see Jack Doyle kind of heavily involved last week, and you might see some quick, short passes to him. Zach Pascal is banged up. I think it's an illness, and he's been scoring touchdowns, but you'll be lower on him. You got to figure they're going to try and run the ball a lot with Jonathan Taylor, who obviously had a very frustrating game last week, could not get in near the 1-yard line multiple times. But they're going to feed him the football. Maybe you see more Nyheim Hines, but probably Michael Pittman is really the only receiver that I would have an inclination to use here.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was hoping from a DFS perspective that it might be a little bit of a bounce back for Nyheim Hines, for them maybe to rely on that pass game from the running backs, because last week was brutal for him. Very odd, but it was kind of, not a good situation for either one of the running backs. And then moving on to another running back that we're a little bit concerned about here. I see this question constantly. Are we panicking about CEH?
I don't know if I use the word panic, but you're definitely concerned because this is not what you wanted to see. And he had a critical fumble late last week that basically cost him the game. He held on to the football, they're probably kicking a field goal, and they win. Instead, he fumbles, and the Ravens go down the field. So there has to be some concern. Andy Reid usually hasn't been a guy to punish his running backs like a Bill Belichick. So maybe you don't see too much, but maybe you see a little bit more Darrell Williams. Maybe McKinnon's involved more. But the problem is CH just hasn't been catching the football, which is surprising because he came out of college as a pass catching back, and you figure, okay, they drafted him in the first round. They're going to utilize him that way. And it just hasn't happened. So that to me is like the bigger concern. Part of it is Patrick Mahomes doesn't check down right. Mahomes is a guy that's going to extend plays and look downfield and be aggressive. And when you have Tyreek Hill getting open and Travis Kelce, you can understand that. But yeah, it's definitely concerning, and he's not scoring touchdowns. So, the running back position is pretty thin as is, so he's kind of still in that RB2 range, but on the low side. But this week to me is going to be critical because they're going up against the Chargers, who have been pretty bad against the run. You saw the success Dallas had on the ground last week with both running backs finding the end zone. And I think, Dallas week 1 said we're going to attack Tampa Bay through the air because that's their weakness. You don't run on them. So I think Dallas has done a really good job these first 2 weeks just exploiting a weakness on the opponent. And I'm interested to see if Kansas City does that this week because the Chargers have been really susceptible on the ground the first 2 weeks of the season. So this is going to be a key week for him. But yeah, if you have him, you're definitely concerned because people started – I saw him go in the mid-second round of some drafts. The only league that I have him in redraft, I got him at pick 24, started with McCaffrey, and I was like, all right, I'll take a shot on him, hoping that'll work. But yeah, it's definitely not what you want to see so far. So this is going to be a critical week for him.
Yeah. And then you mentioned the Dallas running backs, and we'll head over to that situation where people are a little concerned. And I'll say right off the bat that I don't have that same panic that everyone else is having regarding Zeke, but I would love to get your insight as the expert, and then also as a fan.
Yeah, look, I'm not that worried either. The Cowboys coaches said before the year that they wanted to use Tony Pollard a little bit more to keep Zeke fresh with the extra game. And that's essentially what they have done. Zeke is still on the field for the majority of snaps. It feels worse because, I think Pollard played 21 snaps and had 16 touches. So it's like every time he comes into the game, he's touching the football, which is something they're going to have to fix because teams are going to start noticing that. Be like, all right, Pollard's in the game. Let's focus on him. He's getting the football. And last week, I just think that was the game plan. They said, all right, let's just run on the Chargers. They're not going to stop us. This week, I don't think that's going to be the game plan. Philly's been pretty good against the run. I think this is going to be a situation where they have to pass a little bit more. Pollard does look better than Zeke as far as he has more juice, but they've been also running him to the outside and pounding Zeke between the tackles. So Zeke still scored a touchdown. So maybe he doesn't finish as the top 5 running back that we want, right? Because we basically took Zeke for the huger workload, which we've seen throughout his career. So maybe he does cede some touches to Pollard, but I don't think there's a need to worry. Zeke was still an RB1 last week. Obviously, if you have him, you want more, right? You're like, oh, I want 25 touches. But at the same time, he did find the end zone. This is an offense that's going to put up points. So I wouldn't worry about it too much at this point.
Exactly. I feel the same way. I think that performance by Pollard was so blinding because he did so well from a statistical standpoint that it makes you kind of forget, hey, that was still a top 10 performance on the week for Zeke. So how are you going to be, that's not something to be disappointed about. Exactly like you were saying, it's not going to be that RB1 overall upside, but he's still going to be right in there giving you exactly what you need from your starting running back. And then we'll move on to, we'll quickly do some other notable injuries. We've got T. Higgins that is sitting out of practice. It's sounding like he's probably not going to be able to go. How are you leaning towards with Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd with that?
Oh, I mean, they're really good starts. I mean, I know this, and the Steelers have a lot of issues on the defensive side of the football. I mean, the Raiders carved them up last week. The key is there going to be enough time for Burrow to throw? But all 3 produced last week, even though Chase needed a late touchdown to really come through. But yeah, there's a report from Jeff Hobson, who covers them for Bengals.com, and he said he's, quote, on pace to sit for week 3 after missing practice Wednesday and Thursday. So you don't like to hear that. We haven't really heard anything from Zach Taylor. He just said he's day to day. So maybe there's still a chance. I mean, Friday obviously is going to be key. But when you see this, what you need to do is go, okay, I have T. Higgins. I have to prepare to be without him. And I have him in multiple leagues. So I'm very upset about this because I already have other wide receivers to deal with. So, yeah, this is where the depth comes into play. And very, very disappointed in this report. But, yeah, you feel good if you have Boyd and Chase.
Yes. And then speaking of Pittsburgh as well, we've got Deontay Johnson, who we're still unsure of. It doesn't really seem like there's any indication one way or the other that Deontay out of the lineup does massively affect both Juju and Claypool.
Yes, but your gut says that he is going to play. So I'm going to trust you on this. And cross my fingers and hope you're right. But, yeah, he didn't practice today. And Deontay Johnson, we go through this. Like, every game he gets banged up. This one was on the last play of the game, which meant nothing. I mean, it's good if you got the point for the reception. Maybe you won your matchup by 1 or 2 and you had Deontay Johnson. You feel good about that. But, yeah, obviously this would be big for Claypool because Claypool has been a little bit of a disappointment. He's not playing on wide receiver sets with 3. And Roethlisberger's arm strength has been a problem. This offense has looked awful. So it's a boost for Claypool. I mean, Juju's been getting his, still getting no short passes. James Washington would obviously see a bigger role, but I don't think I could start him unless you're like desperate in a real deep league and maybe you're without Higgins and Johnson this week and you're really searching. But I think the key here is it's good for Claypool. Looks like Ben Roethlisberger is going to play, but he's banged up. So just keep that in mind. And he has not looked good so far.
Yeah. That is true. And then moving on to another one that is a big concerning if he is out, since that bit massively affects a lot of people. We've got Dalvin Cook, who we're a little bit unsure about as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a real key because no one's really talked about it. And they're like, oh, yeah, he's not practicing. We expect him to play. But, we could get that surprise on Friday or maybe a game time decision that he can't go because he got hurt a couple times in the game this past week. I think it was an ankle was one of them, and that's really the issue right now. So, Madison is probably rostered in most leagues anyway, but you should have him just in case. It sounds like Cook's going to play, but again, who knows? He did not practice 2 days in a row. Friday's going to be key, and let's hope it's not a game time decision because that game is 4:25 p.m. Eastern. So that's going to limit your opportunities if you wait. If you have Cook and you have Madison, okay. But yeah, I have Madison in one league. And obviously if he goes, I want to play him. But I have to look at the roster and see what time those guys are playing. But yeah, this could turn out to be a big one here at the running back position.
Yeah, we've got another situation similar to that. We've got Josh Jacobs, which is not as impactful because some people arguably may not even be starting Josh Jacobs if they're rostering him. But you've got that situation with the lack of clarity around his injury. We've also got an afternoon start with that one as well. And then maybe a little bit different that we don't really do. We really have a backup that we really want to insert into the lineup in this situation.
Well, I think you can go with Kenyon Drake. He has 5 receptions in each of the first 2 weeks. Obviously, didn't do much on the ground last week in a tough matchup, but Miami has been susceptible to running backs here, allowing over 330 total yards to running backs and 3 rushing touchdowns so far to running backs. And if you like narratives, the Kenyon Drake revenge game, right, against his former team. We did see Peyton Barber evolve, but Drake played 71% of the snaps. So Barber will get some carries, but Drake will be heavily involved in the passing game. Jacobs was in a non-contact jersey at practice, but they listed him as did not practice. He looked really banged up in week 1. He came out of the game multiple times to the sideline. So I'm guessing he's not gonna play, but we'll see. But I think Drake would not be bad in PPR formats because at least he's going to give you a decent floor. And if he finds the end zone, it could be a 15 to 17 point week for him potentially.
Yeah, and then we've got another one that might be, I think people are starting to come around to on this wide receiver, Marquis Brown, which a lot of people, when you drafted him, you weren't thinking he was even going to be someone that you started, and you're turning around now, look at the performance. I mean, he's got, multiple games in a row now where he's got a very, very solid performance and putting up great numbers in PPR, being someone that you definitely do want to, at the very least, flex. So he's got an injury situation as well. I don't know if we really have much of a pivot from there if he goes out.
Yeah, I'm guessing he's going to play because he didn't practice last week with this ankle injury, and he looked fine in the game to me. He was getting open, and there were times that he was open and Lamar Jackson didn't see him. But, he had 113 yards and a touchdown, had 8 targets last week, and now gets another great matchup against Detroit. They've allowed an average of 38 points per game. They allowed Jimmy Garoppolo to throw for over 300 yards in them. So that obviously the offense is going to flow through Lamar Jackson in the run game. He's been great on the ground, but Brown is going to get most of the targets. So this is a really good spot. And I'm guessing he's going to play. If he was able to not practice last week, playing the game and look fine, I think they're just going to be cautious with him here and sit him out. So, last year I had a lot of Hollywood Brown. I don't have as much this year, which sucks. I think I might only have him in one redraft league. But, yeah, he's pretty much – he's like a wide receiver, too, right now, the way he's playing. I don't see how you sit him, especially this matchup against Detroit.
Yes, I do have a decent amount of Hollywood.
Good for you.
A lot of times people are like, why are we not fading Hollywood? I was like, well, his ADP is kind of right. It's like spot on. It's not really much of a risk. So I did get a little bit of him. Moving on to the next player we've got Daryl Henderson, which is a really interesting situation because we're not sure what's going on. Then we've got them facing the Bucs. Will the Rams actually go ahead and move forward with trying to run the ball, or will they take that Dallas script and will they try and just avoid it altogether and attack through the air?
Yeah, see, that's what's interesting about Henderson, because I think if you have him, you probably don't want him to play. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's like if he is banged up, give him the extra week. And it goes back to what you said. You don't run on the Buccaneers. It's a waste. They are just so good against the run. They're susceptible against the pass. Their weakness is in the secondary. So I have Henderson in one league, and I'm prepared to be without him. I think I have Javante Williams or James White as the replacement, so it's not the worst situation. Yeah. Sony Michel looked good last week, but you can't be that confident. You got to hope that they get him involved in the passing game and he can catch 4 or 5 passes to raise the floor. But it's a terrible matchup for running backs going up against the Buccaneers. So we've seen it for 2 years now, basically. Last year, even 2 years ago, and then this year so far. So it sounds like this is a pain tolerance thing. I'm guessing he doesn't play. I don't have him in the rankings right now on fantasyalarm.com. Obviously, if we get good news, I'll put him in the rankings. But it sounds like to me that he's not going to play. And it might not be the worst thing in the world because you probably would start him and you might not get a big week in this matchup. And Sony Michel becomes more RB3. You hope that he gets most of the touches, and you have to hope that he catches 4 or 5 passes. And you could always find the end zone against any team, but the probability is low against this defense.
Agree. And then we've got one more, and this one is particularly interesting to me because this guy Kenny Goliday. This game is kind of my barometer here. It's against Atlanta. If you can't have a good performance against Atlanta, that's where I start to get concerned. I've been patient with the first 2 games, but if this one doesn't turn out the way we would like it to, then I'm going to start to get a little bit worried. And he is looking like he's injured. I think he's going to play, but we've still got that injury concern there.
Yeah, he did not participate much in practice with a hip injury. So it looks like he's questionable, but like you said, this is a great spot against Atlanta. They're terrible. He was frustrated last week, yelling at Jason Garrett, like many fantasy players and Cowboy fans have over the years. But yeah, I did not like Goliday at all going into the year. I love the talent. I just didn't think he's a good fit with Daniel Jones because Daniel Jones doesn't really throw the ball into traffic. And Galladay's not a guy that gains much separation. He can go up and get it. We just haven't seen that. Sterling Shepard has been the go-to guy. And, Daniel Jones has actually played pretty well, especially he's got a rushing touchdown in each of the first 2 weeks. I picked him up in a couple leagues this week. Last year I had him, and he burned me across the board. But as a backup quarterback, and I'm actually going to start him in one over Joe Burrow this week, a 14-team league. That's what I lean right now, and that's reflected in the rankings on Fantasy Alarm. But, look, Goliday, this is a spot where he should produce. But I still think Shepard is the guy you play over him. I doubt many people have both, but you got to have Shepard ranked higher right now based on what we've seen so far.
Yeah, for sure. He's been steady every single game. But that wraps it up for our hot topics. And before we dive into the Q&A, we're going to do a quick game preview. As Adam mentioned, it might be super quick because one side of the ball is really only viable. But, Adam, I kind of want to start this off with a question. So I want you to set a little debate for me. We do bold predictions on a show that I do with the Dynasty Vipers, and my co-host, his bold prediction was that CMC would get 100 rush yards and 100 receiving yards. And I came in and I said, well, that's not super bold because he was awful close to that week 1. And we had a little debate over it. Is 100 and 100 bold for CMC, or is that something that is in the easy realm of possibility for him?
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think that's real bold. I know you could say, well, how many times is a running back going to do that? But it's McCaffrey, and he gets so many touches, and it's against the bad Texans defense. So I don't see that as like a bold prediction.
Thank you. I think he he was on with Howard just like maybe 30 minutes ago, so I hope he's watching now. But moving on to the game preview, my big question here is Houston more confident than we thought? I mean, I know week 1 was Jacksonville, and they are a tragedy in itself. But last week against Cleveland, it wasn't that bad. And a lot of that does hinge on Tyrod. I mean, a lot of times we forget that even though he has bounced around, Tyrod is a very competent quarterback. So, what's going on here? How are we feeling about the team as a whole? Is this game even going to be relatively close? What kind of game script do we see here?
Yeah, I think Panthers win this game and cover. It's always dangerous taking a team that going into the year we didn't think was great, but they're off to a good start. They're 2-0. They're just playing really well defensively. They lead, I think, in points allowed, yards allowed. They have 10 sacks through 2 games. I know it was against the Jets and the Saints. And the Saints looked like one of the best teams in week 1, and they look like one of the worst teams in week 2. So I'm not so sure what the Saints are right now.
Yeah.
But the Panthers are playing well. They drafted heavily on the defensive side. Darnold has come in and played well. We know there's weapons here. I don't buy the Texans. I think obviously week 1 was a fluke and a reflection of how bad Jacksonville is right now. And it goes back to what you said. Tyrod Taylor was really the key. Take him out, and I just think it changes things. Davis Mills making his first start. I think he averaged like 5.4 yards per attempt last week. That's not good. So the Texans have like 3 running backs they're using. Ingram has not shown much. I know he had the 26 carries in week 1. So I still think the Texans are one of the worst teams in the NFL. They have some injuries on the defensive side of the football. And I think this is a game where Carolina should be in control. I just think they're the better team. And even though it is a short week, that also hurts Davis Mills. Barely enough time to practice with this team. Came into the game last week and 8 of 18, and now basically no practice this week. So I think Carolina should be in control of this game.
Yes. And then, from a start-sit perspective, obviously, we've got CMC, we've got DJ Moore. I assume we're feeling confident about rolling Sam Darnold out. But then we get to the wide receiver situation beyond Moore, and we've got that whole Robbie Anderson and his little strange usage thing going on. And then we've got Terrace Marshall kind of peeking around the corner as well. What do you got with those two?
I have a feeling we're going to see Robbie Anderson find the end zone tonight. I would maybe sprinkle in some money on a Robbie Anderson anytime touchdown. He's only got 4 catches through the first 2 games, so he's got a 12.3% target share, and that just seems like way too low. He's a big play waiting to happen. I think he can exploit it here. Texans secondary dealing with some injuries. So I'm forced to start Robbie Anderson in the league. I don't feel great about it as far as, seasonal rankings, but we saw it in week 1 against the Jets, right? He had 1 catch for a long touchdown. I think it was 57 yards. That's kind of all he needs. I think he can do that tonight. So I have a league where I have Antonio Brown, and I cannot wait around in case he doesn't play as he's on the COVID-19 list, and don't know if there's enough time for him to get those 2 negative tests in the 24-hour span. Apparently he is vaccinated, if the reports are true that the Bucs are 100% vaccinated. So I'm going to start Anderson in that league. And then I have him in the Scott Fish Bowl, which obviously is a very deep league. So I'm starting him there as well. So I think there's a chance he finds the end zone tonight.
And then moving on to Houston, it's Brandon Cooks, who's the only one that really has any value here. Are we even feeling confident rolling him out?
Yeah, I think you could. I mean, he's going to get most of the targets. I know there is a little concern with the change of quarterback. He had 5 for 132 in week 1, 9 for 78, and a touchdown in week 2. He's got 21 targets through 2 games. So, I mean, you're not as enthused as the last couple weeks, and Case Mills is just disastrous. And again, Panthers have been really good defensively, first in defensive DVOA. They held the Saints to 80 passing yards last week. But just keep in mind, too, Saints barely had the ball. Saints had the ball for like 22 minutes. Now, maybe that happens tonight, right? Maybe the Texans can't move the football. Panthers have these long drives. But I think Cooks is, that in that wide receiver 3 territory. You would think at some point a team's going to just say, all right, let's just completely take him out, force the ball to these other receivers. Nico Collins is out. They just don't have much at all. So, Brandon Cooks would be the one guy that I think you can use.
And then one last thought before we dive into the Q&A portion. Going back to Davis Mills and Tyrod Taylor, I've seen it all over. The Tyrod Taylor effect. Is Davis Mills the next franchise quarterback of the Texans, or have we finally broken this weird thing that goes on with Tyrod Taylor?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, 3rd round pick and probably overdrafted as well in that round. So I don't think he's the answer.
Yeah. All right. And then let's go ahead. We're going to dive into the Q&A portion, going into Discord. I see a lot of questions, and thank you to everyone for submitting them. If you are watching, go to the DFS or Fantasy Alarm Discord, ask your questions in there, and that is where we will be taking them. So I'm going to kick us off with a half PPR flex question. Javante, Tyson. Oh, this is a big list. Okay. Javante, Tyson, Sutton, Debo, Jacobs, Madison.
How many?
I think just one.
Just one
flex option. Yeah, that's a big one.
Well, the Madison one we can't answer now, right? We don't know about Dalvin Cook. So I'm probably gonna go Sutton here. I mean, he's going up against the Jets. He had a big game last week. He still does not look 100% though, but Teddy Bridgewater's actually throwing the ball downfield more now. So I'm going to go with Courtland Sutton. That Jets secondary is an absolute mess. So I'm going to go Courtland Sutton.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And then we have a trade question, trade offer. Get Metcalf and Swift. Send away Lockett, Gaskin, and Shenault.
Yeah, I'm fine with that because Swift, I think we had this discussion. I don't know if it was week 1 or week 2. I felt like he was one of the running backs I was going to regret passing on, especially in round 4 as he fell. And, he looks so good. I know Jamal Williams is going to get some touches, but they're going to play from behind. They don't really have any wide receivers. Swift's going to catch a lot of passes. You're getting Metcalf, who's going to be better. I love Lockett. I've said all offseason, why is Tyler Lockett going 2 rounds after Metcalf? And Lockett was a bargain in round 4. I have a lot of Tyler Lockett this year. But Gaskin, I'm not worried about him. And Shenault is already banked up and has Chark there, and Marvin Jones, and Lawrence hasn't been great. He'll probably get better. But, I'm doing this basically because I want Swift. So I would do it.
Yeah. Are you feeling consistency from Lockett, or do you think that there's going to be some kind of up and down as we get further into the season?
No, I expect consistency. I think last year what happened was the second half he was banged up. And that's the one thing about Lockett. He plays through injuries, and that's a good and a bad thing. It's good. All right, he's out there. He's trying to be tough. But it's bad because it can influence your play. The other factor last year in the second half that was a problem was the offense just was so vanilla and predictable. And DK Metcalf had said that. Now Waldron comes in, and they've been a little bit more creative. They're another team, too. They've only run 106 plays through 2 weeks. They've been, as always, Russell Wilson's very efficient, but there'll be games where they run more plays. What you love about Seattle is where the ball is going. It's Metcalf, it's Lockett, maybe a little tight end. They don't have a third receiver. So that's why I love both those receivers. And I just think the offense is going to be a little bit more creative this year. So I think that got overblown with Lockett. That was people's argument. Oh, he's so inconsistent. He had 3 big games, which accounted for like 44% of his production. But he's getting the targets. Like I looked before the year, his prop on yardage was 975.5. How? He had 1,054 and 1,057 the last 2 years, and you're adding an extra game. That number was way too low.
Really good point. Really good point. All right. Now trade. Let's do another trade question here. We've got half PPR. All right. And it looks like it's a 3 players for 3 players trade. So the first side, Amari Cooper, Miles Sanders, Rondale Moore. Second side, CeeDee Lamb, DJ Moore, and Kyle Pitts.
Okay, there was no time. See, it all depends on roster flexibility, what you need. I kind of like that second side. I mean, Lamb has been phenomenal. DJ Moore's been the go-to guy. Pitts, I think, is going to get better. I like the matchup this week for Pitts going up against the Giants. They've allowed the 4th most fantasy points to tight ends. They've allowed 2 touchdowns. So, and Pitts has been getting the targets, 8 the first week, 6 last week. And the other side was Cooper, who is banged up, but I think he'll be good. And who are the other 2?
Miles Sanders and Rondale Moore. So, I mean, as long as you're good at running back and don't really need Miles Sanders.
Right. That's going to be the key, what you're running. I'm assuming he needs a tight end desperately because he's trying to trade the tight end. Selling high on Rondale Moore, who I do like. I mean, Rondale Moore is a player I have in a lot of leagues, and I understand he is still 4th in snaps among wide receivers, but when he gets in there, they're using him. And I see they could use him more. And this is an offense that's going to put up points. So I still like Rondale Moore, but I understand if you don't have one of those top 6 tight ends, you are feeling it. Like you do not feel good. Yes. Trust me. Like I do have Darren Waller and a Kelsey and a Hockenson, but there are leagues I have Jonnu Smith. It does not feel good. So I understand. And look, if you're going to trade for Pitts, now's probably the time because I only see him getting better. I mean, a lot's going to depend on Matt Ryan, who hasn't looked good. But, if Pitts has a big game this week, that's it. The price is going up.
For sure. And then we've got this next question. I like this question because I have seen it all over, and it brings up a strategy portion as well. Panthers or Pitts D? And I asked this because a lot of people are debating around what to do about the Patriots defense. I'm seeing this all over, like, okay, do I drop the Patriots defense? What am I doing? And, it's kind of bringing up a weird situation of, are you dropping something that is so valuable? And I understand it's a defense, but if you drop it, someone is picking it up. So what are you going with here?
Well, I mean, I have both as top 5 plays this week. I have the Panthers slightly higher. Here's the thing with the Patriots, though. They play Tampa Bay next week. So are you going to play them against Tampa Bay? Probably not. To me, defenses are week to week. I don't see any defense that stands out that I go, I got to keep this defense for the year. Like I drafted Denver because of these first 3 weeks. They had the Giants, Jacksonville, and the Jets. So I'm trying to remember. Is it Baltimore next week? I don't know. But you don't feel good. So, like, to me, none of these, like, what is there, unless you disagree, is there one defense you go, I'm holding this defense for the year? I don't see it. I don't see any defense that I'm holding for the entire year. Ravens defense has been disappointing. Pittsburgh's defense has been disappointing. Tampa Bay's defense is good, but, like, they're not dominant. Here's the problem with Tampa Bay's defense. They're so good against the run, right, that other teams are going to pass. Tampa Bay is a pass-first offense. So when you have both teams passing, clock stop on incompletion, you have more plays being run. Now, what helps Tampa is they're going to be playing from ahead a lot, and then you saw what happened last week, right? Defensive touchdowns. So maybe Tampa Bay, if you want to say that, but like everyone loved Washington. Now what does everyone think of Washington? They haven't been good. So what defense do you say I'm keeping them for sure every week? Because I don't see one. Yeah. Do you?
You know what? I like your explanation because I'm realizing that I am very biased on this. And my bias has been influencing how I've been answering this question. Because where I have the Pats D is I have them in a dynasty league, a very deep dynasty league with a defense, and I cannot let that go. So that is influencing my mind when I think about this question because it's a situation where I can't make that change. So I'm rolling with that defense next week.
Okay, so, I mean, I would have to look at the Patriots schedule. I know for sure that obviously huge game next week, Sunday night, week 4, Tom Brady going back to Foxborough. So I know Belichick's great, but man, I just don't see him slowing down Brady and those weapons. So this is tricky because good matchup this week at home, right? With what we've seen in the Saints offense. Then next week at home against the Bucs. The following week on the road against the Texans, you like that. Then they're home against Dallas. Then they're home against the Jets. You like that. On the road against the Chargers. Don't love it. In Carolina. So they have it's like every other week. So you might have to just suck it up and go, all right, I'm going to play them against the Bucs. They're going to give up points. Hope that Brady makes a mistake, even we haven't seen many. So it's a tricky call because Carolina's defense has been great, but I think their schedule gets tougher too. They have Dallas in week 4. Typically, you don't want to go against Dallas, right? We've seen Dak throw, 1 interception? So that it's tough with defenses because I don't see one where I go, I want to hold this one the entire year. I haven't seen it yet. As good as Carolina's been, and they'll be good tonight, I expect. They have Dallas coming up, so that's tough. You have to make the judgment call there. Someone did ask me about the Patriots, and I have them in a league, rolling with them this week, and I guess I'll figure out. I go week to week with defenses. I know some people don't want to hear that. I go week to week.
It makes sense. All right, next question. We've got a flex, and it looks standard. Yes, 1 flex spot, standard. Robbie Anderson, Odell Beckham Jr., Higbee, Kenyon Drake, or Daryl Williams.
Okay, you can't play Williams. We don't know what his role is going to be.
Yeah.
Beckham, I guess. I can't wait for him at this point when comparing to Robbie Anderson. So it was Robbie Anderson. Who else?
Beckham, Higbee, and Drake.
Higbee, I think, is interesting this week. I think he's going to have a good week because they're going to have to pass, as we said, against the Buccaneers. So there's going to be a lot of pass play. So I think Higbee has a good game. Do I want to play him in a flex over these guys? I can't because there is a risk that he catches 1 or 2 passes, and I'm wrong on this.
Yeah.
So I'm eliminating him. So Robbie Anderson.
So you got Robbie Anderson, Odell, or Drake now.
And the problem with Drake is if Jacobs plays that, but I'll go with. It's close. You know what? I'm going to go with Drake. I think Jacobs doesn't play. Oh, wait, it's non-PPR though, right?
Oh, yeah, you're right. Standard. So we're kind of stuck with.
Let's go, Robbie Anderson. He finds the end zone tonight. Let's go, Robbie.
All right, go ahead and get it out the way. The Ambrose Show. Your answer is Robbie Anderson for tonight. Although I am with you on Higbee. I do think I have the same opinion on him this week.
Yeah, I think they're going to throw a lot. So.
Yep. All right, and then we've got Mike. I'm going to assume Mike Davis versus Myles Gaskin. Well, wait, did I see that right? No. Let's go to the next question. I think I'm reading that wrong. If Deontay doesn't play, who do we have? Kenyon Drake, Pollard, Elijah Mitchell. Need 1, half PPR.
I mean, this one unfortunately you're going to have to wait on because we got to see if Elijah Mitchell plays. Green Bay is bad against the run. They have been brutal. So I probably would go Elijah Mitchell if he's good to go. You can ask that Sunday morning. I'll be on the live stream this week with Howard Bender filling in. So
nice.
11 a.m. Eastern, I think, right? Yeah, 11 a.m.
All right. And then we have... Do I drop Juwan Johnson, Daryl Williams, or Zach Johnson to pick up Michael Carter?
Oh, yeah. So wait, Juwan Johnson, and who are the other 2?
Daryl Williams or Zach Johnson? Maybe Zach Moss,
Pascal?
maybe? Zach Pascal or Moss?
I would drop Juwan Johnson. Yeah. You got to get Michael Carter. I know it's the Jets offense, but he looked good last week. I thought the whole season that eventually at some point he would emerge. He looked the best last week. They finally put Tevin Coleman in the background. That was a wasted draft pick. I said it before the year. You don't draft Tevin Coleman. The guy's had one good year in his career. When he was with San Francisco, he wasn't that good. When every other running back there has been good, they only brought him in because he knew the system. Doesn't mean anything. So Michael Carter and Ty Johnson have moved ahead. But yes, make that move. Pick up Michael Carter.
Yeah. All right. And then we've got Devonta Parker or KJ Osborne, rest of season.
I'm still going to go with Devonta Parker. I mean, obviously, we have to see the situation at quarterback there, but he's still a good player. I know Osborne has come on and gotten some targets as they run more 3-wide sets. They've put up a lot of points in the first 2 weeks. But Jefferson obviously is going to start to get more targets. So Osborne's not bad, but I'm still going to go with Devonta Parker here.
Yeah, I feel like you have to, even though I will say that I really do believe that Devonta Parker or that KJ Osborne is going to continue. It might not be the same 7, 8, 9 targets and touchdown kind of situation, but I do think he's still going to be productive because I really do believe that they've just decided with Irv Smith down, they're just going to pivot away from tight end and just go with him as that third option. So I do like him rest of season, but it's
that would have been Irv Smith probably.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. So now we've got confirmation here that our take on Irv Smith was in fact correct. I like it.
Yeah. What? Yeah, I think so. We can call it that way and put it that way.
All right. And then we've got, would you start Damian Harris or Cooks in standard?
Let's see. Harris has looked pretty good. I know he was on the injury report a little bit, but yeah, I'm going to go with Damian Harris. I'm going with the offense here. They should be able to run the ball. So you got to go. I think you got to go Damian Harris.
Same. We got a defense question. New Orleans or Cardinals?
I'm going the Cardinals this week. I know they were a disappointment last week, but it's Jacksonville, and we've just seen how bad they look. Lawrence was sacked, getting interceptions, wasn't throwing for much yards. So especially if Arizona's able to jump out, take a lead, that's the spot you want the defense in. They can tee off and opens up opportunities for interceptions and turnovers. So I'm going with the Cardinals.
For sure. And then we've got I'm pretty soft at wide receiver with Cooper banged up. Do I trust him or do I sub some other receiver like Robbie Anderson or Latavius Murray or James Conner or Mooney? Standard league.
Well, I think you got to wait. I know Robbie goes tonight. It sounds like Cooper's going to play. The problem, obviously, is this is a Monday night game. But you can wait it out. And there were Mooney's not a bad option, especially with Fields at quarterback. So I would wait it out. Obviously, if Cooper plays, what you might have to do is over the weekend, depending on what the update is on Amari Cooper, maybe you pick up a Cedric Wilson. This way, if Cooper's out, Wilson slides in, and he goes from the 4 to the 3 with Gallup out to now the 2 against Philly, and he's a playmaker. So I think that's what I would do, is I would wait it out. Obviously, Anderson goes tonight, so just don't play him, and wait and see the news that we get on Cooper over the weekend.
For sure. And then we've got full PPR flex, Gaskin, Mike Davis, Tim Patrick, James White, or Christian Kirk. Pick just one.
One, okay. I think I'm going to go with, let's see, it was White, Gaskin,
Tim Patrick, Mike Davis, Christian Kirk.
I think it's between Tim Patrick and James White. I'll go with Tim Patrick against that Jets secondary. We saw he scored a touchdown last week. He's getting targets in this offense now, so I give him the edge over James White.
I like it. I think I would lean towards James White. I'm loving what I'm seeing out of him just from and then you were talking flex position. So I like the solid floor that it gives me right there. I'm feeling pretty confident about his ability to get me a minimum of 10 in PPR.
Yeah, no, it's true. I can't argue with that. I'm playing him in some leagues too, and he got that carry inside the 10 last week, much to the dismay of those with Harris. But yeah, White's involved. Ramondre Stevenson was inactive last week. Taylor didn't do much. So yeah, James White's a big part of this offense.
For sure. And then let's see, I'm going to head over to DFS. Let's see, we've got some DFS questions to roll with. Robbie Anderson or Darnell Mooney?
Well, I'm assuming. I mean, Mooney.
Hmm.
This is not the one.
Yeah.
Not the showdown slate. I mean, I'd probably go Anderson right now. I mean, I do like Mooney though. That's the thing. But I do think Anderson can find the end zone tonight. Big play, susceptible for the Texans, and I think they're gonna look to get Robbie Anderson a little bit more involved. So I'll go Anderson over Mooney. But I do think Mooney is interesting this week. He has also been on the injury report, but sounds like he should play.
Yeah. And then quarterback, Sam Darnold or Ryan Tannehill? Oh, we've got a lot of tonight questions.
Yeah, I think Darnold is not a bad play this week, but I lean Tannehill. It is close. I guess the key is going to be, can Indy keep that game competitive? It is a divisional game, though. I know Tannehill kind of disappointed last week. I thought that was a touchdown of Julio Jones, though, in the back of the end zone.
Yeah, for sure.
But I see A.J. Brown bouncing back, so I lean towards Tannehill, but it's actually close. I think Darnold could have a solid game. The risk with Darnold tonight is they build a big lead and they kind of shut down the passing game.
Yeah. And then heading back over to season long, we've got, let's see, going forward, McKissick or James White. That's a good little, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, the McKissick thing, okay, McKissick, week 1 didn't do anything. Week 2, big week, right, with Heinicke at quarterback. Week 1 was Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick doesn't check down a lot. But McKissick was really involved in the hurry up and the 2-minute offense. That's really where he was featured heavily. That's not going to happen every week. So James White's role is solidified in this offense. So it's James White.
Yeah, I agree. I think, McKissick is a very situational thing, although I do think that with Heinicke, it's a much more positive situation for him in particular. So he'll be usable for sure. But yeah, James White has a very specific usage. So I do agree with you on that. And then let's see some more. Scroll up. Defense. Panthers defense or Broncos defense?
Gotta go with the Broncos. They're at home against the Jets. It's close. I think I have them 1-2, but
yeah.
Broncos at home against the Jets. We saw how bad Wilson was last week. This defense is good, solid in the secondary. They're great at home openers in September. I wrote it in my Survivor article today. 18-3 in their last 21 home openers in Denver. So I got to go with Denver.
For sure. And then we've got, and this one is kind of, I'm going to assume they mean, when they say A. Brown, they mean A.J. Brown. We've got T. Higgins, who's probably going to start out. So it looks like it's between Marvin Jones and A.J. Brown.
Really? Or is it Antonio Brown? Are the people that down on A.J. Brown already? Yeah, I'm playing A.J. Brown.
Well, maybe people don't know that A.J. Brown's got possibly with the COVID situation. So, or Antonio Brown with the COVID situation. So yeah, if it's Antonio, let's say if it's Antonio Brown and he plays, which I'm still probably.
And who is the other one?
Marvin Jones. I think either way you lean towards the.
I mean, if Brown plays, I'm playing him. There's no doubt. I know his snaps were down last week. I think part of that was they were playing from ahead. But this week should be a competitive game. Tampa opened as dogs. Now they're favored. But it doesn't sound like Antonio Brown's going to play. But if it's A.J. Brown and Marvin Jones, it's A.J. Brown. He had some drops last week, but, he'll bounce back.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if that speaks more to the confidence that people are having in Marvin Jones. I see a lot of people that are very it's not Chark, it's not Laviska Shenault, it's Marvin Jones that is the wide receiver one of that team, and they're obviously throwing for a ridiculous amount of passes over there. So maybe they're speaking more to less about the lack of confidence in A.J. Brown and more about the confidence in the fact that they're obsessed with Marvin Jones down there.
I guess, but I mean, it was really he had the touchdown last week, but they are going up against Arizona, and he's more wide receiver 3-4, where A.J. Brown's someone I'm just playing every week.
Yeah. And then let's see, we've got need 2 receivers. Nope, that same similar situation. We got a lot of A lot of Antonio Browns and Higgins. Again, maybe that's the live stream with you guys on Sunday morning to review all of those injuries. Because again, it is a crazy week in terms of us having to wait until Sunday to find out about a lot of these guys. So again, people, a lot of these questions are very injury dependent. So make sure that you're tuning in on Sunday and following the injury reports. It's going to have a lot to do with your decisions.
Yeah, and just make sure if you're setting your lineup with like a Robbie Anderson tonight, do not put him in the flex spot. Put him at wide receiver. You always want to make sure you have that flex spot open for flexibility. I'm still amazed at how many people fail to do this. Even people in the industry. Like I'll be going against them and I'm like, they got this guy in the flex. What are you doing? So some people don't understand it. Someone's like, well, this guy's my flex. No. You're leaving it open, so this way on Sunday you could use a running back, receiver, tight end. So if you're starting Robbie Anderson tonight, he should be in your wide receiver spot, McCaffrey in your running back spot, Cooks in your wide receiver spot. Leave that flex spot open. It allows you flexibility on Sunday. It should be common knowledge, but I'm amazed at how many people I see that fill it on Thursday night.
Yes, I know it looks a little funny if you put, J.D. McKissick in your starting position and you've got Dalvin Cook in your flex, but it works better. It works better. So
I always put the latest game in the flex spot. So if Monday night and he's a flex, he's in the flex spot.
Yes. And then we've got a trade question that was rejected. How do we fix it? So trading away Russell Wilson to get Chris Godwin. Should we add? So the question is, do I add KJ Osborne or Devonta Parker to the deal? Stafford is the backup.
Here's the problem.
Yeah.
Most people are not trading for a quarterback. So you might be giving Russell Wilson, but who's the quarterback on the other team? You got to look at the other team and see if they even need a quarterback. And I think sometimes people fail to do that. So if that team has Tom Brady, Kyler Murray, they're not going to trade for a quarterback. So I hope that you're making this offer because their quarterback is like Ben Roethlisberger or something like that. But people just don't trade for quarterbacks. I mean, this was a week where you could have went to the waiver wire. I saw Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones, who I picked up in a 14-team league, Derek Carr. People don't trade for quarterbacks most of the time because they know they can just go to the waiver wire. So I think that's probably the big issue. Just guessing.
Yeah, and one QB, I mean, it's a very streamable position. So even if you've got somebody that you're rolling with and you're not very confident in them, there's somebody on the waivers that has a good matchup that week.
Yeah.
And then moving on, we've got a few more questions to wrap up with. PPR, Javante Williams or Mike Davis?
Oh, man. Davis has been catching passes. I'm going to go Javante Williams. I know he's splitting with Gordon, but he looks good going up against the Jets. So I'm going to lean towards Javante Williams. Mike Davis getting some of his workload cut into by Cordero Patterson. So I'm going to go Javante Williams.
Yes. Speaking of Cordero Patterson, Robbie Anderson or Cordero Patterson at flex and PPR?
We'll go with Robbie Anderson. Again, I know the usage has been disappointing the first 2 weeks, but I kind of have a feeling he's going to score a touchdown tonight. So give me Robbie Anderson.
I will agree with you. And then we've got quarterback question, Tannehill, Teddy Bridgewater, Justin Fields, Daniel Jones.
Damn, I hope they don't have all those players and they're looking to pick one up the stream. Yeah. I'm going to go Justin Fields. I know it's a little risky here. Cleveland's defense hasn't been good. Fields can run, and look what the running quarterback does. Look at Jalen Hurts last week, right? They didn't do much passing, 82 rushing yards and a touchdown. Fields has been running. I'm going to go with Fields. Bridgewater's not a bad option against the Jets. Daniel Jones not a bad option. This is a good week for those quarterbacks, that tier. But I'm gonna go with Fields.
Yeah, I'm with you on the rushing upside, and for that reason, I'm going with Daniel Jones, my rushing quarterback now, getting those touchdowns. Very proud of him. And then one last one. I hope so too. Last one. We'll wrap up. Tannehill or Winston?
Tannehill.
Yes.
It's hard to trust that offense right now with the Saints, and part of it could have been the assistant coaches being out. They're not home yet. They're not going to play their first home game till week 4. But I don't know what to make of this team after the first 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. We got to be less hard on Tannehill and more confident moving forward as well. All right, guys, it's hit 7:00. I'm certain that we have to go double check our lineups, even though we may not have that many people in them, but you always got to double check right before the Thursday game just to be sure, especially if you're playing in multiple leagues like I know Adam is. Got to make sure. We also maybe got to get those DFS bets in. So 7:00, we'll wrap it up. And it's game time. Please go enjoy the game. Panthers versus the Texans. Thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in to our Thursday night pregame show. Tune in next week. We will be doing the pregame show for Jacksonville and Cincinnati. Again, another odd game a little bit, but oddly enough, could be very exciting with this rematch of my boy, Trevor, and Joe Burrow. So tune in next week to see how hype I can get for Jacksonville. And then also continue to pay attention to all the Fantasy Alarm and DFS Alarm content that we have going on throughout the weekend to help you out. I'm Tera Roberts. I'm here with Adam Ronis. Thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy the game and good night.